In this interview, Jeffrey Sachs goes deeper than most analysts ever dare to. He explains how even American presidents, including John F. Kennedy, were pulled into dangerous plans crafted by intelligence agencies long before they fully understood the consequences. This isn't just history, it's a pattern that keeps repeating. A new president arrives, the CIA presents a ready-made plan, and pressure builds to act before thinking. Sachs paints a picture of a world where early decisions, rushed decisions, can shape the next decade of global conflict. And Kennedy, a leader known for caution, found himself face to face with decisions that could have changed world history forever.
He had the famous line, "Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate." And he knew the dynamics of how things can get out of hand. He understood that the world was dangerous and he was going to avoid it. And yet, the first year was a massive debacle because the CIA came to him and said, "Mr. President, now you have to implement the invasion of Cuba." And he had serious doubts about it, but like most presidents, and certainly most presidents in their first months, he kind of went along and said, "Okay, you can do it, but I'm not going to give air cover." And some flaky set of decisions from the CIA and Kennedy had them go forward. And of course, the Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba was itself a debacle, a disaster. It led to a horrible interchange with Khrushchev, who wrote in a private channel to Kennedy, "Stop this piracy of people in your government." And Kennedy wrote back brazenly, "No, it's not my government. This is independent of the United States." And Khrushchev wrote back, in effect, "Don't lie to me like that, Mr. President."
I want to stop you there because you write in the book about 2 times the Kennedy administration lied to the Soviets and how destructive that was to building relationships.
Actually, the first lie came when the Soviet Union shot down a CIA spy plane, the U-2 spy plane with Gary Powers, just on the eve of what was supposed to be a summit between Eisenhower and Soviet Party Chairman Nikita Khrushchev. And the CIA lies for a living, we know this, but it lied to the President of the United States also, saying, "Mr. President, don't worry, they can't shoot down the spy plane, it's too high, and if they do shoot down the spy plane, it's designed to disintegrate, and if it doesn't disintegrate anyway, the pilot is going to take his cyanide pill, and there's no way anything can happen to embarrass you." And of course, they shoot down the spy plane, they get the wreckage, they get the pilot alive, Gary Powers. They don't announce that. They say, "We have been spied upon," and downed a plane without revealing those details. And Eisenhower comes out and says, no, this is a weather craft that went off course from Turkey." And then the Soviets reveal, we have the fuselage, we have the pilot who has told us about his spy mission. Direct, blatant lies. Then soon after this comes the direct, blatant lies of the Bay of Pigs. It's dangerous. And this is the CIA, by the way, and it's the CIA till today, in my view. It is lying and unaccountable, and really never called to task for these lies because the public doesn't know them, doesn't understand what's going on. But from the Soviet US point of view, within months of the Kennedy administration, this air was poisoned. And there was one other thing that was absolutely precipitating all of this, which was, and very fundamental and completely never discussed in America almost at all, but there had been no peace treaty at the end of World War II. And the Cold War emerged, in fact, over a bitter dispute between the Soviet Union and the United States about the future of Germany.
Sachs explains that Kennedy understood the danger of the world he had just stepped into, and he wanted to avoid reckless escalation. But despite his caution, the first year of his presidency turned into a political disaster. Why? because the CIA arrived with a ready-made invasion plan for Cuba, insisting it was the only option. Kennedy hesitated. He questioned, he doubted, but like many presidents in their early months, still building experience and confidence, he eventually allowed the operation to move forward, including the infamous Bay of Pigs. And yet he refused to give the CIA political cover, refusing to fully endorse what he believed was a flawed and risky plan.
The Soviet Union had lost more than 20 million people in the war and did not want to see Germany remilitarized. The United States, on the other hand, decided that the three occupied regions from the western side, the U.S., French, and British regions, would form a single new Federal Republic of Germany. The remaining fourth part, the Soviet-occupied part, would become the German Democratic Republic, the GDR. But the western side would become the bulwark of a new military alliance, NATO, and it would be remilitarized. And the Soviet Union said, no, we just lost more than 20 million people. Now, within a few years, you're remilitarizing. Well, of course, the United States never listened, never negotiated, and at the end of the 1950s, took another step. Eisenhower was flirting with the idea, maybe we should just give our allies control over nuclear weapons as well, so we can reduce the U.S. Troops numbers in Europe. Eisenhower was very frugal. He was a fiscal conservative, and he wanted to bring troops home and use the nuclear shield. And so there was, at the end of the 1950s, lots of talk about nuclear sharing. And this was freaking out the Soviet Union also. And the United States doesn't know how to talk to anybody. There's no diplomacy. There are mortal enemies. There's no one to negotiate. And so the situation, by the time Kennedy came in, was completely fraught. Then came the Bay of Pigs. Then Khrushchev said, okay, we need to teach Americans a bit of their own lessons. We'll put missiles in Cuba. And Khrushchev had a quite remarkable exchange with Andrei Gromyko, as foreign minister. Gromyko said, no, what, war? And Khrushchev said, no, not war, just basically teach these Americans about their arrogance. They have missiles in Turkey. We're going to put missiles in Cuba. Nothing about war. But of course, everything immediately spiraled out of control when the missile placements were discovered and the subterfuge that the Soviets were using to place the missile systems in place. And it was like the subterfuge of the United States doing what it did on its side. Things get out of hand. And as soon as Kennedy saw the U-2 spy plane over Cuba taking these pictures of missile sites, he convened an executive committee, ExComm, and it was almost unanimous. Well, we got to shoot down these sites. We have to take them out before they can be deployed. And it was unanimous, essentially, that there needed to be an immediate war, and the Joint Chiefs were told to go off and plan the military campaign against Cuba. Would it be an air campaign? Would it just be to take out the sites? How many troops would be needed, and so forth? Kennedy, interestingly, to make a very long story short, had lunch by coincidence with Adlai Stevenson, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, on the first day of the Cuban Missile Crisis, when Kennedy had seen the pictures. And Adlai Stevenson said to Kennedy, well, of course you need diplomacy to end this, and exchange the missiles with the Turkish missiles. Kennedy was shocked because no other advisor had said anything about diplomacy. It was basically unanimous for a military approach.
Sachs's message is clear. The problem didn't start with Kennedy, and it didn't end with him. It's a systemic issue in American foreign policy. Presidents come and go, but the momentum behind regime change, often pushed by intelligence agencies, continues unchanged. Kennedy learned the hard way that saying yes too early can lead to catastrophe, and Sachs warns that unless leaders break the cycle, future presidents may face the same trap, dangerous plans, rushed actions, and consequences that echo across the world. His lesson is simple but powerful. If history teaches us anything, it's that regime change is never as easy, clean, or successful as its architects promise.